Hello everyone and welcome to the next video on this channel. My name is Peps and I welcome you to day 8 of the G1 Climax review series here on this channel. And today we have another B block day with 4 matches because of course Gabe Kidd is sadly forfeiting his match against Yoshihashi, so Yoshihashi gets the 2 points. And today we are in Osaka. And the attendance was kind of down from last year. I believe last year it was Shingo Takagi versus Zack Sabre Jr. in the main event in the Yamato Arena in Osaka. This time we have 1,390 fans in attendance for Zack Sabre Jr. versus Konosuke Takeshita in the main event, which is on paper, and I will mention it later, maybe the most important match of the B block. So you can definitely say it's a bit of a disappointment, but also last year the A block had also like names like Tetsuya Naito and all of them in important matches, so I can get why this one is down. I would just say we jump straight into the matches because of course I still need to study until Friday and then I'm done. So wish me luck on my final exam. And we have in the opening match, El Phantasmo vs. Great-O-Khan. This is supposedly the finish to the trilogy in 2025 that they had with 2 matches over the New Japan Television title. Great-O-Khan won the first one via countout in the Sumo Hall in Sakura Genesis, and then El Phantasmo won the title back on the Dontaku tour to win the New Japan belt, New Japan Television title for the second time. So they are tied 1-1, and while this sounds like a bigger feud of the year, it feels like one of the most irrelevant feuds of the entire year in New Japan. I believe if I mention in like 3 to 4 months that this was an actual feud that happened over the television title, I bet 90% of the people listening would have forgotten that. And this exact match showed why this is pretty much so irrelevant and forgettable. Because they fought pretty quickly to the outside, had a crowd brawl. And funny enough, like they chose one of the few spaces in the entire venue that was like notably empty, and it just fought right there. Pete then hit the dive, which was more creative than the other dives he did because he jumped from where the crowd was sitting, even though there was no one, instead of just doing the typical dive over the guardrail, which was, like I said, more creative. And the referee took like ages to count. I imagine it was like at least 2 or 3 minutes, and they were outside until the ref started to count. And back into the ring, Great-O-Khan then took over the control of the match, and he controlled. The pace slowly picked up, but never really. And then after like 50 minutes, that felt like 20, Great-O-Khan won with an avalanche eliminator from the top rope to win the match, to get 2 important points and go to the 8-point mark. Meanwhile, El Phantasmo stays at 4, has now already 4 losses and can maximum reach of 10, so he is pretty much out of contention already of advancing. It's mathematically possible, but it's going to be really tough for him to make it through, especially considering everyone has gotten 2 points from Gabe Kidd, so we know it will be really tough for him. For the match itself, I thought it dragged, in my opinion. Like, it did a lot of stuff. It seemed to matter, but it never felt like it actually did. Like, they did stuff. It was okay. It was very slow. It was very boring, in my opinion, and just nothing came out of it ever. Like, I just don't feel like they have the chemistry, and they are much better against other wrestlers. Like, I didn't really like the match from El Phantasmo against Takeshita, but they have noticeably better chemistry than these two. Same for Great-O-Khan with Shingo Takagi, with a Zack Sabre Jr., with Takeshi and all of them. I just think there are some pairings in New Japan that just don't hit, and that is one of them. They tried, but, I think it was like solid enough, a bit too long, and this was like the perfect sign of, okay, Gabe Kidd versus Yoshihashi being on the card would have helped this match to be a lot better in terms of it would have gotten less time. Then we go to the second match in the B block. We have Drilla Maloney versus Ren Narita. Narita had the chance to go with 5-1 record at 10 points as the first test of the tournament. Meanwhile, Drilla Maloney wants to reach a magical 8-point mark in his first G1 Climax with 4 matches to go, which would put him in a good position to advance to the knockout stage. And this match just started with typical House of Torture bullshit. Kanemaru just attacked Drilla Maloney before the bell even rang, and they started the second crowd brawl of the night. Drilla started to bleed early, and they got back into the ring after 1 or 2 minutes, and then we had even more House of Torture bullshit. Tons of ref restrictions, multiple ref bumps. Kanemaru interfered more often than in the last 5 matches combined. And it was really tough to get through. Renorita went for the Hell's Guillotine in the middle. Drilla Maloney countered it into a good power bump, another ref bump. Drilla Maloney takes out Kanemaru, hits diving elbow from top rope, hit a low blow off his own when Renorita tried to go for another low blow, then went for the Drilla Killer and won the match, goes to added points after around 10 minutes. Yeah, this was not a good match. I don't think it was either's fault. I feel like the match layout was just bad. Narita started well in the tournament, but then it's the same thing over and over again, and it gets worse with every single match. More interferences, more offense that just doesn't matter, and then more ref bumps, and everything leads to a nothing finish in a cold audience that just doesn't buy it. And I don't know what the goal is with Renorita in this tournament, because it feels like, okay, they had something with him in the first match against Zack Sabre Jr., and they just need to perfection that. But instead, it just went into the totally different direction, the totally opposite of what, in my opinion, would have been the right thing. And it's really annoying, right? It's so annoying to watch. And I just don't get why we just don't let him wrestle at this point. We have seen it against Zack. Just let this guy wrestle. Man, it's sad. It's literally really sad. Meanwhile, I think Drilla Maloney doesn't have a good GP so far. G1 so far. I'm sorry. I watched the 5-star GP before this. And he needs this 1 or 2 great matches right now, and he still has the big names for that one. I believe he still has Zack Sabre Jr., he still has Konosuke Takeshita, he still has Shingo Takagi, where he can get this out, and he needs that, because in the end, what matters are what the fans have an impression of you at the end of the tournament, right? And in my opinion, if you have 2 or 3 final good matches, the first matches doesn't matter. So if he hits these ones, I think fans will be happy with his tournament, and I think that should be the goal for him. Then we go to the semi-main event of the show. We have Shingo Takagi versus Shota Umino in another match that is supposed to be a trilogy ending, and I don't think it will be the last match between those two this year, but I'm not sure about that. Shota and Shingo both enter, of course, with 1-1 record in 2025 against each other. Shota won the New Japan Cup semi-final match in March. That was kind of uninteresting, kind of boring. Meanwhile, Shingo Takagi won a really good match at Wrestling Dontaku that had the aggression, that had the fire, where it felt like after the New Japan Cup final, okay, maybe Shota Umino has something. And well, this match was kind of more similar to the first match than the second one, because they worked a very slow match at the beginning, elbows, hammers, and everything, and they used the extra time they got from Gabe Kidd missing the show. I expected to pick them up the pace, but we just reached the 50-minute mark with nothing. And I literally mean nothing happened. 20 minutes in, then we had Takagi with the first highlight where he hit the loss of Drang, but couldn't go for the pin into the slack hurting, which is caused by Shota Umino working over it, and then he just went for a full-up pumping bomber with no problems. He stumbled a bit at the beginning, then just ran and no-sold it. Whatever. Then in the end, Shingo Takagi picks up the win with the Burning Dragon in around 23 minutes to pick up his first G1 Climax win on his own, because the other win he got, of course, was due to Gabe Kidd forfeiting. And meanwhile, Umino goes down to 3-3 after starting with a 3-1 record, which is kind of momentum killing for him in terms of in kayfabe, of course. And he needs to fight back. He will have a rough tournament in the end, because he still needs to fight against Konosuke Takeshita. He still also has Great Okan, of course, as his rival on the final day. So I imagine that this will likely be the deciding match for Shota Umino, whether he goes through or not against Great Khan in the end, as well as the tiebreaker over Konosuke Takeshita, as well as already the tiebreaker that he earned against Zack Sabre Jr. I mentioned that matches went longer due to Gatekeep's forfeit, and I feel like this can be really great. Like, it can be actually an advantage because matches will reach the next level they wouldn't have reached otherwise, which was, for example, the case with Shingo Takagi versus Konosuke Takeshita in the main event on day 6. Meanwhile, like a match like Shingo Takagi versus Shota Umino or Great Khan versus El Fantasma are just dragging under it. This match just feels like it had nothing the Dontaku match had. The aggression was missing, especially from Shingo's side, where he was so aggressive, wanted to beat the living hell out of Shota Umino, and Shota Umino looked really good in it, and this time it was just gone and replaced with nothingness, and it felt like the typical Shota Umino problem, right? Where like most of the work is fine and sometimes even good, but you just look at him and it's like nothing between those eyes, and he's just not what you want him to be. And I feel like this was especially the case here in this kind of situation against Shingo Takagi. I don't know. I just want him to click, and I feel like Takagi is getting really inconsistent. This guy has legitimately fantastic matches when he wants to, right? Like, the match against Kesha just shows that. But then on the other side, he just wakes up. Sometimes he thinks like, how about I just do nothing? And then he does really do nothing, and his match gets really boring, really repetitive. And I just don't get it, right? Maybe Shota Umino is just not the guy that lit the fire under him, and he did. Like, the thing about this is like he did at Dontaku, but for that he needed to mention the monkey situation, Dragon Gate, like, which was very personal and not something he maybe should have done in a professional workplace, but in the end, it led to something that both profited from. Like, Shingo Takagi had some momentum going into Dominion. Meanwhile, of course, Shota Umino looked good in the loss, but here in this match, just nothing happened, in my opinion. I was a bit disappointed. I felt like they could have gone better than this. Then we go into the main event. We have Zack Sabre Jr. versus Konosuke Takeshita. And like I said, maybe the most important match in the B block stage, as Zack faces Takeshita with both needing points. Zack already suffered 2 losses early against Shota Umino as well as against Ren Narita, and is now at just 4 points after 4 matches. Meanwhile, Takeshita has 6 points with a 3-1 record and is the only guy that defeated Gabe Kidd, but a win would just put him right tight at first place at 8 points. And in this block where people get a free win and he needed to fight for them, you need every single point. This had a very slow start with headlocks and other holds that went over the 5-minute mark, and I thought, oh, okay, this will go long. But it was part of the match story, as Takeshita just kicked Zack Sabre Jr.'s ass from then on, and he needed to find a way to get into the match back against Zack, that is, because Takeshita just had a counter for every technical work that he had and just got his ass kicked once Takeshita got back and got the control. And the dynamic of this helped the match from the very beginning and got better with every single minute. Like, seeing Takeshita getting out of every single thing Zack Sabre Jr. did with some kind of move was just fascinating to see, and I loved that. Zack changed his plan and went into the striking exchange, and from then on, this match was just straight up fantastic. The uppercuts, the elbows, and the sounds of the slaps were just out of this world. Zack is a fantastic striker, and it's something you don't really see when you look at how he normally wrestles as well as how he just looks. And, you know, Takeshi's elbows are just fantastic anyway, and he maybe has the best elbows in the entire tournament. So them facing off was just really cool to see, and that led them to a fantastic finishing stretch that was built around the sleeper hold of Zack Sabre Jr., because Zack always found a way to get back into it again, even though it looked like Takeshita found his way out of it, like he tried to go for the wheelbarrow suplex, and just Zack goes over him again, gets locked in again, puts him down, and Takeshita taps him out, and that led to the surprise maybe win for some at the beginning of the tournament, because I felt like many predicted Konosuke Takeshita to win this one. But now, Zack Sabre Jr. beats Takeshita, goes up to 6 points. Takeshita also now has 6 points, both pretty much with the same record. They will have it tough, and that is something to look forward to. Like, you have Shota Umino, you have Zack Sabre Jr., and you have Konosuke Takeshita all at 6 points. and they need to get the points in, they will, at least Takeshi and Umino will face each other again. And they also traded already tiebreakers with, of course, Zack beating Takeshita and Shota Umino beating Zack Sabre Jr. So those will be like the three names to follow in the rest of the tournament in terms of, okay, where will they land at the end? Because they are the three favorites to advance to the next stage, and we will see. For the match, I felt like this was a New Japan way to tell the audience that this will be a major match on the upcoming major shows. Either King of Pro Wrestling, which is what I predict in the Sumo Hall, or even Wrestle Kingdom, which I don't think will be happening because I don't think they will put an outsider versus a foreigner in the Wrestle Kingdom main event. Because they wouldn't go like that so early on in the block stage if they wouldn't know and wouldn't make people want to make sure, okay, we will face each other again in a big match. I could see them face off in the block stage, that is, either at the semifinals or in the playoffs. No, it will be at the semifinals, with Takeshi maybe winning and getting his win back. So they will go 1-1, and then, of course, run it back at King of Pro Wrestling with the title on the line. That's at least what I would personally do. Or they just wait until Takeshi wins the G1 and gets another chance, which is also possible, but I don't think that is happening. And that is like something you need, right? In these tournaments, you need to tell your audience, hey, look, this is the match we want to build up to. Look forward and invest in these two characters, invest what they do in the tournament, because you have different kind of paths to get to this specific match. In that case, Zack Sabre Jr. versus Shingo versus Konosuke Takeshita. But the fans now need to invest, okay, which path will it be? And we'll think about it and everything. And that is exactly what you want. And for that, this match was just great. Like, they had 23 minutes, and in comparison to the match before, again, Shota Umino versus Zack Sabre Jr., that had pretty much the exact same time. I think the difference was like 8 seconds. You felt a total opposite in terms of how they laid out a match, in terms of how they used the minutes in the match, and how they maximized their moments. Overall, I thought this day was one of the weaker days. It had a strong main event, of course, with Zack Sabre Jr. versus Konosuke Takeshita, but the undercard is just like the matches below are just not matches that I personally enjoyed. I think Drilla Melody versus Renorito was not good. El Fantasma versus Great Okan was solid, and Shingo Takagi versus Shota Umino was at best goodish, but way too long. So the main event, of course, carried things out here for the show, and it's similar. Like, we have reached a point where I'm getting tired a bit of the G1 Climax, which is always happening around day 7 to day 10, and then we go on to the big shows where I'm back locked in. And I think that will be at the latest day 13, which is the Hurricane Hall show, of course, with David Finner with Yota Tsuchi. Still, we have a lot to look forward to. We have a show on Friday with a fantastic main event of paper with Hiroshi Tanahashi and Yuri Omura, then under, of course, Seichi versus Yota Tsuchi and David Finlay versus Bolton All, I guess, like 3 matches I'm really looking into. Then we go to the stat sheet. We have, on the first place, we have Drilla Melody, Great Okan, Renorito, and Yoshihashi all tied at 8 points. Konosuke Takeshita, Shota Umino, and Zack Sabre Jr. all at 6. El Fantasmo and Shingo Takagi both at 4, and Gabe Kidd at 0 points. It will be interesting to see how this plays out. I think we will get a lot of matches that just tie the records in the next couple of days, just to get everyone around the same points to make up for the points that Gabe Kidd would have won. And I imagine we'll start with the next show. Like, Zack will win against Great Okan as an example, and Umino will win his match. Takeshita will win his match, and everything like that. The most interesting one is likely El Fantasma versus Shingo Takagi in terms of the result, because both of them are like at a record where they just need to win. Like, El Fantasma pretty much would be out with a loss. Shingo Takagi would be a very similar situation where he just can reach 10 points max. So imagine that one of them wins and the other one is pretty much eliminated. Then we go to the match times. At first, we still have, after the B block day, Konosuke Takeshita with 1 hour and 30 minutes and 31 minutes and 55 seconds. Shota Umino followed with 5 minutes left. Zack Sabre Jr. with a whole match left at 1 hour, 20 minutes, 21 seconds. The highest match average time with 20 minutes and 5 seconds, which is insane. Like, over the course of 4 matches, I believe, that he wrestled. This guy will likely be the guy with the most time inside the ring if Takeshita doesn't wrestle like a totally huge amount of matches more than him. At least in the block stage, Zack Sabre Jr. will be ahead of Takeshita. On the bottom, we still have, of course, Gabe Kidd, but before that, we have Yoshihashi with 30 minutes, Drilla Maloney with 43 minutes, and then Sanada with 47 minutes. In terms of the block itself, they have pretty much around the same time. Like, A block has a combined match time of 4 hours and 57 minutes, and B block of 4 hours and 45 minutes. So combined match time of nearly 10 hours now that I watched in the past. Not even 2 weeks, like 1.5 weeks, I believe. So there's that. And with that, I would say we are done for today. And I hope you all enjoyed this video. Leave a like, a comment down below. We have 3 shows on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday coming up. And meanwhile, I will also try to do something for the 5-star GP as well as for the Dreamstar Marigold. I won't do daily things like with the G1 Climax because Scott is good named Scott E-Wrestling on social media. Of course, you all know him. So check that out if you want to see similar stuff to Stardom as well as to Marigold. And with that, I hope you all enjoy your day. Bye-bye.